Hey sports fans, what's up? No special intro, no special send-off, nothing. I just got woken up at 9:30 on a Saturday. My friend Matt texted me a New York Daily News screenshot that the Nets fired Kenny Atkinson. Immediately, I screamed at the top of my lungs, "What?" And sure enough, it's right. Kenny Atkinson is out as Nets coach. The day after blowing out the Spurs. I'm still trying to put this all together myself. I cannot believe that the Nets did this. Something had to have happened. There had to be a straw that broke the camel's back. The first thought that immediately went through my head when I saw this was that Atkinson did something stupid. Whether it was just looking the other way on something he shouldn't have, or he said something he shouldn't have. That was the first thought that went through my head. It doesn't seem like that's the case. Granted, it's still incredibly early, but I highly doubt that's what happened. Look, if this is strictly performance-based, then I can sorta kinda understand it. The Nets underachieved tremendously this year. They're going to finish with an under 500 record. They're going to finish with the 7th seed, and they're going to get embarrassed in the first round. Okay, fine. You know what? He's playing without his two best players! As good as Caris LeVert is, and as good as Spencer Dinwiddie is, they cannot lead a team to a winning record. And they definitely can't do it when Taurean Prince and DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen are their secondary pieces. This season isn't Atkinson's fault. And even then, it was never about this year. You're going to fire a coach in the home stretch of a season that you told your fans and everyone else it didn't matter. This wasn't our year. Unreal. There is a way that this makes sense, though, and this plays into a terrible narrative about Kyrie Irving, that he's a coach killer. If Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving sat down together, I'm sure they were watching games together, and they noticed things about Kenny Atkinson that they didn't like, then they probably went to Sean Marks and said, "Hey, listen, we don't think this guy is the right coach for this team going forward." And in a weird way, it makes sense to fire Atkinson now and give yourself a head start on the head coaching search. But now you've punted any chance you had of being competitive in the playoffs away. I don't want to hear that the Nets were 100% guaranteed to be steamrolled. Okay? That's not true. You really need me to go down the list of NBA playoff upsets? Warriors Mavericks with Don Nelson. Cavs Warriors. Warriors blowing a 3-1. Warriors Rockets. Warriors coming back from a 3-1. Anything can happen once you get into the playoffs. But now forget about it. They're going to keel over and die. They may not even play the games, quite honestly. They just may say, "You know what? You take the win. You advance to the second round. We're going to have fun somewhere else." I understand that it was never about this year, but you've got to put your best foot forward. The buzzword for the Nets, ever since Sean Marks got here, has been culture. And there has been no better coach in the NBA in establishing culture than Kenny Atkinson. Now, did Atkinson do things that drove you nuts? Yes. Kenny Atkinson is not a perfect coach. I don't like his crazy reliance on small ball. I can even go back a little further when he refused to play Jahlil Okafor. There were a bunch of games where the Nets came out flat and they had no chance from the beginning. And look, there were some people that thought that Atkinson was a stage 1 guy. You let him lay the foundation, and then you let someone else execute it. That's fine. That's certainly possible. It's certainly possible that Kenny Atkinson never wins an NBA Finals. You can't say with confidence that he will. You know, the 76ers have stuck with a phase 1 guy for a long time in Brett Brown. That's not working out for him. If that's Marks' point, then okay. In a weird way, I can understand it. But you can't fire him today. You cannot fire him the day after you blow the Spurs out of the Barclays Center. They never had a chance of winning that game. Atkinson makes a great decision by putting Wilson Chandler in the starting lineup. Karis LeVert was finally hitting his groove. It makes no sense to fire him now. That's the thing here. Maybe Atkinson was pushing for an extension after the game, and Marks wouldn't give it to him. And that led to some bad blood that ultimately resulted in this. That's certainly possible. I have no idea. My head is swimming. I'm barely awake right now. Yeah, I went to bed late last night. I figured I could sleep in a little bit. I didn't think on a Saturday morning that the Brooklyn Nets would fire their head coach. This brings up an interesting question. Who they're going to get to replace him? Mark Jackson? Stan Van Gundy? Jeff Van Gundy? They need a superstar coach. They cannot go with a no-name assistant. It has to be a big name, a guy who has been to the playoffs before, a guy who everyone knows and everyone respects. And Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have to get seats at the table. Look, I think it was a bad decision to fire Kenny Atkinson, but at the end of the day, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving make the final decisions around here. If they want a new head coach, they're going to get a new head coach. It's just that simple. That's what the Nets signed up for when they signed him. That's what any team would have signed up for. And you know what? There are a bunch of Net fans that think Karis LeVert can be the third star for KD and Kyrie. If they decide that they'd rather play with Bradley Beal or CJ McCollum or anyone else, Karis LeVert is being traded. Off the top of my head, Mark Jackson makes the most sense. He's young. He's been successful in this league before. Does it look a little bad that Steve Kerr had so much success with the Warriors after Jackson left? Yeah, a little bit, but you get the sense that he's very well respected around the league. And as it stands right now, that's who I want. Stan Van Gundy would make sense. Jeff Van Gundy would make sense. Do not go the college route. You have to throw a bunch of money at an established NBA coach. If they don't, then this definitely makes no sense. Look, I can understand getting a head start on this If you really don't think that Atkinson's the right guy for the next stage of the Brooklyn Nets, because realize the next chapter of their history starts next year with Durant and Kyrie coming back. If you really don't think that Atkinson's the right guy, fine. Get a head start on it now, and you avoid making a coaching change mid-season when it's more important. We all know that this year was gravy. Whatever happened this year was gravy. It doesn't matter. Next year is when it starts counting. So if you want to fire him before next year, it makes sense, but this is a bad way to do it. Look, you've got to have faith in Sean Marks, who, by the way, has been getting a little bit of heat on Nets Twitter. You do realize he signed Kevin Durant, right? You do realize he signed Kyrie Irving, right? You do realize he drafted Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, and is the architect behind this Nets team that could win an NBA title next year. If you think this season is more on Sean Marks than it is Kenny Atkinson, you've got to clean your glasses. Has Marks made some bad moves? Yeah, of course he has. Taurean Prince has not been a good fit. Cutting Iman Shumpert, I think, was a bad decision. I'd rather have him than TLC. Yeah, of course he's made mistakes. But if you think that Kenny Atkinson is more important to the Nets going forward than Sean Marks, come on. That's ridiculous. You and I both know that's crazy. Marks has gotten superstars before. He's going to have to do it again. That's the only way that this makes sense. If Marks replaces Atkinson with another no-name assistant, this makes no sense. If he replaces him with a college coach, it makes no sense. It doesn't matter if that college coach is Mike Krzyzewski. They need an experienced NBA coach and someone who has been successful in this league before. Alright, I think that's it. If I missed anything, please feel free to tweet at me at RealJacobValk. My head is still spinning. I did the best I could. I'll see you on Monday for the Jacob Valk Show, as per usual, with the Bill Ripken interview.